So I'm just working along this boat trail, and anywhere that I see the vegetation change, I stop and fish it a little bit. Or if I see a swirl or a pad, one of the pads move. This is such a calm morning that when you see a pad just suddenly move, that had to be a fish brushing against it. It's not the wind. There is no wind. So that's kind of the method this morning. Nada. The other thing you notice, I don't throw way back into the pads. I mean, if you go throwing 30 yards back in the pads, you've got about a 10% chance of landing anything that you hook. And most of my bites anyway, I've noticed, have come within 10 feet of the edge of the boat trails over the years. So that's where I target. Much higher percentage chance of landing a fish. And even then, it's only about, 60-70%. Oh, doggone it. I think that might have been a pickerel. We have a lot of chain pickerel in this lake, and they're much more likely to swipe at the bait and not get it than the bass are. Generally speaking, the bass completely engulf the bait and you don't miss them. But those pickerels swipe at the tail a lot. All right, I'm gonna switch to the swimming worm. Got a gambler burner worm on here. Let's see if we can get him to take that. And we've got the Eagles playing over at the Fish Camp restaurant. It's a rockin' night on Lake Iamonia. Oh, that wasn't a bite. That was just a lily pad. There we go. There we go. Finally. Causing all kinds of trouble, aren't you? Oh, come here, finally. Let's work him around. I swear I have done this before. Come here, buddy. All right, he's not a big one, but he sure is pretty. He is pretty. Let's get our rod into a holder. All right. Pretty bass. He took the speed worm. He was hanging out just underneath these lily pads right along the edge. Let's just be easy on this guy. There we go. Pretty fella. You bet. Oh yeah. Right, so there are some in here. I don't know if you can hear that or not in the distance, but I think what I'm hearing is Maggie by Rod Stewart. So this lake has very limited spawning habitat. As you can see all around me, there's lily pads. This is a 5,000 acre lake, and probably all but about 400 or 500 acres of that is from 1 to 7 feet deep, probably an average of 4 to 5 feet deep. And it's all lily pads and water shield and lotus and that sort of thing. Then there's a main basin of the lake that drops off into about 15 to 18 feet of water. And that's kind of through the middle. And that's the basic shape of these sinkhole lakes here in North Florida. They were formed when water seeping into the ground eroded away or dissolved the underlying limestone bedrock, and the whole creek valley just sort of slumped down, and it couldn't flow out to the river anymore. The Ecology River is to our west, and when that water couldn't get out anymore, it created a lake basin. And that's really how the lake was formed. There still is an active sinkhole over here on the north end of the lake, where if you get a couple of dry years in a row, the lake will slowly sort of filter out through that sinkhole into the limestone bedrock below, and all except that few hundred acres of main basin will go dry. All of these lily pads that I'm fishing right now, this will all be dry land. And that's actually important that that happens. It sort of renews the lake. When you get those cycles where all of this is exposed to the sun and the wind, all that organic muck can dry out, burn off, and then when the lake refills with the next normal or wet year, you have much better habitat for the fish. Now, those drawdown cycles, ideally would happen every 7 to 12 years, certainly at maximum every 20 years. But the sinkhole on this lake has been slowly declining in hydraulic capacity. It's just not draining as fast as it used to. And so this lake just isn't draining as often as it did throughout its history. The last time we had a dry down was, I think, 2016 maybe, 2018 maybe, and it's 2024 now. The first few years right after a dry down can just be incredible fishing, and then it starts to taper off. We had tremendous fishing here on Lake Iamonia in 2022. Then last year in 2023 wasn't as good. So far this year, 2024, has just been really tough. So really what we need a drought. I know that sounds crazy, but this lake needs a drought. It needs to be renewed.